Good afternoon. My name is Tony Gallippi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of BitPay. So our mission was started almost 3 years ago. We wanted to make it easy for businesses to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. Because if you can't spend Bitcoins on anything, then it's just something that people trade around and it becomes nothing more than novelties. So when I talk to different groups, I like to start with this slide to break the ice a little bit. And if you've seen me talk, maybe the first 3 or 4 minutes of this presentation you've seen before on YouTube. But I like to show this picture, and I like to ask the audience, who can tell me what's wrong with that picture? What was that? Yeah, he's using Visa is one thing. All right, well, that's not Ned Flanders. Right? That is Homer Simpson, but he's got Ned Flanders' credit card, and he's going to go shopping on the internet, and he's going to do a lot of damage. So it all boils down to one simple thing, and if you understand this point, then everything else that you talk about, or that we talk about, is a lot clearer. Credit cards were never designed for the internet. Jeff just mentioned it, but they were actually designed in the 1950s, by American Express as something that you present in person. And they run your credit there in the store, and they send you a bill later. So when you try to use them on the internet, it's a really broken system the way we do it now. The situation in finance terms is called the card's not present. And there's huge risks in that, right? Consumers can become victims of identity theft. And this is not a small problem, this is a big problem, right? 10 million people a year, can become victims of identity theft. And it's a big pain, right? If you have to dispute charges, and these card companies have departments full of people that have to take all these complaints, and they have to go back and undo all these transactions. So there's a huge amount of waste in the system whenever this happens. If you're on the business side, if you are selling something and taking a payment with credit card and you're shipping merchandise, if it turns out that credit card was stolen, it's your fault as a business that you took a stolen credit card. Believe it or not, that's how it works today. And so they make you pay. Not only do you get the charge back for the amount of the sale, they also tack on a $25 penalty for every one of those you get. So businesses lose a lot due to chargebacks and fraud. The number is still estimated to be well over $100 billion a year. So when you look at Bitcoin's market cap, because Bitcoin can solve this problem, what's the real worth of Bitcoin? I think it's a lot higher than what it is today. Credit cards have security breaches, right? We have things called PCI compliance, where companies which store your data so they can bill you later have to be audited to make sure that they don't leak it. Well, that doesn't really work, because Sony PlayStation gets hacked and Global Payments gets hacked, and they just leak out millions of credit card numbers. The big one that everybody's worried about is Apple. Who here has an iTunes account on Apple? I know this is an Android-friendly group, but okay, still almost everybody has an iTunes account. Apple iTunes has 500 million credit card numbers stored on file. So can you imagine just the absolute disaster that would be, if that got out? Can you imagine the cost that Apple has to go through to secure that from hackers or even from their own employees, right? The cost is enormous. Bitcoin makes a lot more sense. If you try to use them across international borders like we've been talking about, it doesn't really work. They were never designed for that. And the fees are high, and they keep getting higher. So we clearly think that Bitcoin is the solution. Well, why? Bitcoin is an open source payment network. Anybody can use it and build applications upon it, as opposed to the private networks from Visa or American Express, or the SWIFT system. Bitcoin can stop identity theft. It'll never happen with Bitcoin because you don't have to provide your identity in order to make a purchase. So there's 10 million people a year that may like what we have. On the business side, it can dramatically reduce fraud, right? As a business, the payments coming in to you are irreversible. So you can ship merchandise with confidence that you're not going to get a chargeback and a penalty afterwards. There's different types of fraud. You have to make sure that your coins don't get stolen. But for the merchant side, receiving a payment inbound is dramatically less risky with Bitcoin than it is with any other payment. You can eliminate the need for all those security audits and the PCI compliance because you're not storing your customers' data to bill them later. I mean, this is a huge savings. I don't think people realize how much money is spent by companies to comply with this and to actually secure credit card data. It's pretty staggering. Probably the biggest benefit that people are excited about is their ability to work with emerging markets. If you have a website and your website reaches 200 countries, that's great. All people from all over the world can find your website. UPS and FedEx can ship your merchandise to 200 countries. That's not a problem either. The problem is in the middle with the payment, right? You just can't take their money. So companies are very excited about the ability to reach customers in Asia and South America, Africa, many of the emerging markets where it's difficult to collect payments today. And of course, with Bitcoin, you can pay for things from your mobile phone, right? We've all done that before. We're going to do it tonight at Mo's bar, or Mo's friend's bar, and we'll talk about that towards the end. But there's two things that Bitcoin can do hands down better than any other payment network. Number one, you can do internet payments across borders like a piece of cake, right? Like Jeff said, Bitcoin by design is borderless. And it's only the artificial things that put up that we can navigate around. So it works better than anything you're going to get from PayPal or any type of banking institution. It's also a cross-border mobile payment solution, right? I can send money from my phone here. Doesn't matter where I am in the world, I can send it to my buddy's phone. Doesn't matter where he is, right? It uses the internet. As long as we're on the internet, it works. So as a peer-to-peer payment network, businesses, kind of get it. And especially when you break it down into real three technologies that they're already using today, and they're already investing millions of dollars in today for their businesses. Number one is the cloud. Businesses are moving everything to the cloud. Your software's in the cloud. Your data's in the cloud. Well, now your accounting and your finance can also be in the cloud thanks to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is an accounting ledger in the cloud. Of course, it's mobile. Every business now wants to interact with their customers individually through their mobile device. Companies are building mobile apps just for that purpose. Well, Bitcoin is designed for mobile. It works very well on it. Bitcoin is also open source, and this is a big trend that you see. Companies are no longer afraid to use open source software, for their businesses. Maybe 20 years ago they said, "Oh, we don't want to do that." Today, there is no hesitation at all, and many times, you'll see employees at big companies that are actually, putting in pull requests and helping contribute to open source software projects, for little things that they developed or the fixes that they'd like to see, and make them available to everyone. So at BitPay, we make it easy for businesses to accept Bitcoin. There's always the do-it-yourself approach, just like construction or home improvement. Sure, you could remodel your bathroom and do it yourself, but if you don't know what you're doing, maybe you end up with something like this. But if a business did want to accept Bitcoin, there's no reason why they couldn't do it themselves, and this is what they would have to do. They'd have to install and secure, some Bitcoin software. They have to put a hot wallet up there on their web server. So you got to get an internet security expert really to just get past that first point. But if you do manage to secure that, there is no automation. You have to write everything yourself in terms of automatically processing orders, because payments come in, you have no idea who the heck just paid you, what is it for, is it the right amount? You've got to create all of that stuff, all of that code. You have to manually calculate if you want to set your prices in dollars or euros, how many Bitcoins do people have to send you at this moment in time. And then if you want to exchange them, you have to send your coins up to an exchange, you have to issue the sell orders, and so most business owners want to run their business. They don't want to sit there on a computer tinkering around with some little online currency exchange. Businesses will assume any volatility risk between the time they quoted the customer how much to pay and by the time they actually were able to receive it, send it to an exchange, cash it out. However long that time window is, the businesses can assume the volatility risk. When you get into larger companies, their accountant comes into the room and he has a lot of questions, right? He says, well, how do I account for this on my books? How do I report my revenue, in Bitcoin? How do I allocate for this? The bigger companies, they're run by lawyers, and they have a whole different set of questions, right? They want to make sure that their company doesn't get sued, that they're not going to get in trouble with the law, that everything is compliant. So, no matter how strong the value proposition is, you talk to a business, and you say, hey, you can take a payment from anywhere in the world for low risk and low cost, and it's super easy. You should add this right now, right? They get the value, but they look at this and they say, there's security risk, there's technical risk, there's financial risk, there's legal risk. They don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, right? Too much risk. And that's where we've kind of built our service starting in early 2011 to try to make it easy for businesses to accept Bitcoin. They don't have to do it themselves. They can utilize, number one, our expertise, but also, leverage the technology in our platform. So they don't have to install any software. They certainly don't have to install any wallets on their server. They can configure an account on our system. Our system is fully automated, so every time somebody is shopping in their web store and wants to pay with Bitcoin, we generate an invoice, we track everything, we know every payment coming in, exactly what it's for, and what to do next. Businesses can set up a direct deposit, so we could just put dollars or euros into their bank account every day, just like they get paid with their credit card companies. And so if they do that, they have zero volatility risk. It goes away completely. If you ask me to collect 20 euros, I'm going to put 20 euros minus our fee into your bank account. So that makes it really easy for the accountants, because now the Bitcoins are invisible, right? The gross amount of their sale is in euros. The fee they pay to us is in euros. The net they get into their bank deposit is in euros. The Bitcoins are invisible. They don't have to account for them anywhere. It also makes the lawyers happy because they actually never legally take possession of the Bitcoin, so they don't have to claim them, right? The third-party processor handles all that for them. So we have to account for everything, but at least the merchants don't. So we're shifting a lot of the risk from the merchant to us. And we have a toll-free number if people have questions. So this is what we've built. On top of the Bitcoin network, we've built our core platform. This is what we do to interact, to monitor transactions on the network. On top of this, we really have two different ways to access our platform. One is just a browser post, a checkout post to our website. On top of that, we've made a little mobile checkout that restaurants and stores can use, and we're going to play with that later. You can also just make a simple buy now button, right? Generate some HTML code with a widget on our site, slap it on your site where you want that button to appear. We take care of the shopping cart and everything else. Most of our orders actually come in through an API, which is an automated way for businesses to route orders through our system. So you can actually directly contact the API. On top of this, we've built a PHP client library. On top of that, we've got about 15 different plugins that we've built for shopping carts. So if you're using Magento or OS Commerce or WooCommerce or maybe a dozen of them more that are on our website, we've already built a plugin. So you just install the plugin and you can configure it and add it to your checkout experience. We have a Node.js library. One of the things that we've been working on lately is actually getting embedded into some other shopping carts, because I think that the trend here is businesses are moving away from downloading and running their own shopping cart PHP MySQL software. They'd rather just pay somebody a monthly fee to just run their web store for them, right? It's better for business owners. But if you do that, you're at the mercy of whatever payment options that web service gives you. So we're trying to get integrated with as many of those as we can. We've got 5 of them so far. 3D Cart is the largest. They have 16,000 merchants that use their platform to run a web store. We've already done a webinar with them, and we'll probably do some more to raise more awareness to their existing merchants. But this makes it easy because 3D Cart did all the work, and now their merchants just have to go there, create an account, enable it, put in their API key, and it's turned on. eGovLink is an interesting one. This is basically designed for small towns to be able to collect payments for permits, for parking, your DMV, right? Imagine you're a small town. How do they take credit cards today? They use a service like eGovLink. Well, eGovLink now gives them the ability to add Bitcoin. So they have, I don't know, maybe 100 little townships, typically small towns across the US. Accountants also love BitPay, because what we do, we give them a guaranteed exchange rate, and we can put a direct deposit in their bank account every day, and that's now available in 33 countries. So US, Canada, and the entire Eurozone. We have direct banks and direct banking relationships, in all these areas. So we can push out as little as $20 or 20 euros, every day to our merchants. And it works very well. The other thing we did to make it easier for our accountants is to give them the ability to download all of their transactions and sales into their accounting package. QuickBooks is probably the most popular small business accounting package that we see in the US. And this is really, really great. Businesses, even if they set their prices in dollars and they take 100% Bitcoins. I don't know if Roger's here. Roger, are you here? From Memory Dealers and Bitcoin Store. Well, Roger was one of the first guys to do this, and Roger sets his prices in dollars, but he takes 100% Bitcoin, right? And everything downloaded and reconciled. Another one of our merchants, Amagi Metals, he downloaded his entire history and everything balanced, So this works really well. And so for businesses that are looking to accept Bitcoin, the biggest headache that they're going to get after they say, yeah, it sounds good, is, well, holy cow, how do I report this? Well, we just made that super easy. And if there's other accounting packages that people are using, by all means, talk to us, and let's see which ones are the most popular. So in Atlanta, this is our office. If any of you are coming to the cryptocurrency conference next week, we're having the welcome party Friday night at our office. There's a big event space right across the hall. This is our team. We've actually got 2 new people that have started since we've added this picture. But this is our group. So we have a couple of salespeople, and I think 10 of our 15 are developers. So this is our group. It seems like we have to take a picture every other week, so we keep adding people. And then we also do a lot of speaking. We go out to a lot of trade shows. This was the San Jose conference. We have a nice booth. We do a lot of stuff where we just promote Bitcoin in general at some trade shows. And so actually our nice booth backdrop is all about Bitcoin, and then BitPay is a little bit smaller. So we just had an announcement last week that we've crossed over 10,000 merchants using our service. And a year ago, we were at 1,000. So we've grown by a factor of 10 in a year. Just looking at the breakdown, about half of them are from North America, a quarter of them are from Europe, and a quarter are from the rest of the world. The biggest growing segment actually is in the rest of the world. This time last year, the 1,000 mark, it was actually 60% North America, and then 25 Europe and 15 the rest of the world. So we've seen a lot more growth in Asia and South America. Where you would expect us to see a lot of activity in our 10,000 merchants, people selling things over the internet, probably 90% of our business, right? That's the pain and problem that Bitcoin solves. Companies that are selling things internationally, right? They have a lot of use cases. We see a lot of that in our first 10,000 merchants. So our biggest market today, and I would say, our businesses in North America and Europe that want to sell things, not only here, but also to emerging markets. Right? That's the biggest area where we're getting some traction. So some examples, our top merchants are selling Bitcoin mining equipment, right? It's perfect. People with Bitcoins want to buy this stuff. It's a high ticket item. People all over the world want to buy it. So that we've got, 8, maybe 10 of these companies that are using us to process payments. So if you're starting a new Bitcoin mining hardware company, come talk to us because we have a lot of experience, in processing payments for these, and they are a little bit trickier than just doing a normal sale. Precious metals, gold and silver, we're getting some traction there. These guys, especially if they sell over the internet, run a risk of getting hit with stolen credit cards. Bitcoin solves that problem. Electronics, any type of computers, gadgets, cameras, televisions, right? That's a market where we see a lot of traction. And then gift cards, right? Being able to convert Bitcoins into a gift card that you can spend in another store that doesn't necessarily accept Bitcoin is a big market for us. So these are our top, 20% of merchants really kind of fall into these categories. One area where I see a lot of growth, and I would expect probably the biggest growth to come from here on out, is in the travel and tourism sector. It's an area that's just starting, but for example, I bought my airfare coming here on a site that I can't name, but I paid for it in Bitcoin. Sooner or later, we're all going to be able to do this. 9 Flats, this is a great company based out of Germany, where you can rent an apartment. I paid for my apartment here in Amsterdam, my flat, I guess, in Bitcoin. So I've already got my airfare and my lodging set. So anytime people are traveling, by all means, use Bitcoin, support merchants like 9 Flats that are trying to make this accessible. Now the next step is, okay, well once you get to your destination, what are you going to do? Transportation, right? This is an area where typically smaller businesses, so we have a few limo companies in Las Vegas and New York that are using us, one in Chicago, I think, one in Miami. We could do a lot more, right? The driver can easily accept Bitcoins on his phone. You can even prepay it if you want to. Then the next thing, meals and entertainment. You're at a destination, it'll be great to go, shopping and hit up restaurants and places. Places that cater to tourists, I think, are the ones that would be most, obviously, if I'm interested in Bitcoin. And then even tour packages. Hey, okay, you go to Paris, well, there's all these packages that give you tours of the Eiffel Tower and bicycle rides and things like that, right? You should be able to pay for those with Bitcoin. You can even book it in advance over the internet. So any businesses that are getting into this, offering this service, if you want to accept Bitcoin, I think you're going to get a lot of international visitors to use your service. You really differentiate yourself if you're the one tour operator in a city that accepts Bitcoins. Well, more international people are going to come to you. So our system is also great for buyers, and this is not something that we talk about a lot, but it's a good opportunity to mention it. Right? We've kind of created our own, national best bid and offer because there is nothing out there. So what we do when we quote a rate to a buyer is we grab the order books from multiple exchanges, right? Bitstamp, CampBX, TradeHill, wherever we can find liquidity. We merge them all together. We make our own consolidated level 2. And then we give the rate to the buyer as if they could issue an auto-routing market sell order across all exchanges, which isn't even possible, but if they could do that, they'd get the best possible rate. That's the rate we give our buyers, with 0 commissions. So buyers are always better off spending their Bitcoins with a BitPay merchant than they are selling them on an exchange. So they're going to get a lot more value, for the money this way. We update every 60 seconds, and we actually have this in an API, right? Just basically the high bid is in the API, and if you wanted to pull that up, it's just our website, Bitcoin.com/API/rates. And that updates every 60 seconds. So you can pull that if you want to load it on your website. I was hoping that somebody would come up with a NBBO, but they haven't, so we just made one. BitPay also meets all the open standards of the Bitcoin community, right? We don't require buyers to deposit money with us. We don't hold their money, we're not a wallet. We're compatible with as many wallets out there as we can find that use the standard Bitcoin protocol, right? We recommend ones where the user is in control of their private keys. When a user wants to make a payment, make sure you send the exact amount that the user asked to send. Add the fee to the amount, don't subtract it. Don't truncate it to 2 decimal places, please. And broadcast the transaction immediately. So if a wallet does all these things, we'd be happy to list it on our site, and we do. We even recommend, what operating systems they're on. So right now we've got blockchain, Bitcoin Spinner, Multibit, Armory, and Bitcoin Wallet on Android. So if you've developed a wallet and you meet all these criteria and you want us to get listed, send me an email, let me know, and we will add you. We also have integration partners. This is kind of our expansion strategy around the world. We have 15 people in Atlanta. We don't understand every market. Bitcoin is global. So we have what I call BitPay gurus, for lack of a better word. But these are people in their local cities and towns that want to help us, right? We want to sign up more merchants, and so by having a local presence to do some marketing, sign up merchants for BitPay, get them up and running, right? Help them integrate it with their web store, help them get it up on their web shop, which takes like 5 minutes on any kind of tablet. So we have a list, right? In the Americas, Europe, and Pac Asia, we got about maybe 30 of these guys right now. There's more that we want to add to the website. So if you have some technical skills and you'd like to go in your area and sign up merchants for BitPay, this is a revenue sharing program. So whatever fees we generate from the account, we share it with our local partner. So again, come talk to me if you're interested in that. So when we talk about merchant adoption, there's really 2 areas, right? E-commerce and retail. Those are the only 2 areas that make a lot of sense right now. E-commerce, it's kind of self-explanatory. There's a lot of pain there today, with the card not present fraud, and Bitcoin is a software-only solution, right? So it can plug in, it's just a matter of making it work. Retail is a little trickier, because typically in a retail store, you may be dealing with something like this, where they're taking credit cards, which is actually easier to replace. They may be using something more modern like this. More than likely, your store has a big pile of crap like this, right? It's a computer that's probably running Windows XP, where the software was actually developed in Windows 98, but it's running XP. You got a cash drawer, you got a monitor, you got a swipe reader, you got a pin pad, you got a printer, you got a scanner. Okay, so where do you add Bitcoin to this, right? You're probably not. And so we're focusing right now on small businesses. And for small retailers, we have a really good solution, right? We can replace this little pin or swipe reader, with a mobile app. We give every one of our merchants, a mobile website that they can bookmark on any device. They don't have to be logged in. They can give it to all their employees, and they can process a sale. So we've been doing it with Bitcoin Magazine here, right? We give them the ability to enter in some type of a order reference number and an amount, and they can set that price in their local currency. When they hit the button, the screen changes to a BitPay invoice, right? We create a one-time use address. We show them the exchange rate, and everything is embedded in one QR code. So the business would basically take their phone and say, "Here, Mr. Customer, scan this and pay me." And after the customer does that, the screen updates, and we can also send an IPN to their back-end server if their back-of-house system needs to be notified. So for small retailers, this works great. We'll probably redesign this in a little bit. The invoice is kind of a new design. The checkout page is still an old design, but we'll get to it. But again, it's just an HTML post. You can wrap this and design whatever you want for the business. It's just a web page, doing post. Getting into larger retailers, everybody is talking about mobile wallets. And when you survey the landscape in mobile payments, there's over 130 companies that are trying to get into the mobile payment space and build mobile apps and wallets. You have technology companies like Google and Square trying to build some. The banks are trying to build their own, right? The telecoms are trying to build their own, right? Even Vodafone and others are trying to build some. And then you have retailers that are saying, "The heck with you guys, we want to interact with our customers directly." So places like Walmart and Target or Starbucks are just building their own app and trying to do it themselves. So these companies are spending millions of dollars. Every one of these apps has the same 2 problems. Number 1, they're all walled gardens. None of them talk to each other. It's kind of like the early days of the internet where you had AOL and Prodigy and CompuServe and whatever other dial-up service. It was great because you can get in and you can talk to other people on that service, but you couldn't talk to anybody on a different service. Right? Well, we don't have that today, right? Of course, we have SMS as an open protocol and SMTP, and everything has to talk to each other. So these guys spending millions of dollars are all creating walled gardens. Maybe they'll be successful, maybe not. Oh, the other problem is none of them work internationally. If I'm from the US and I can have all 10 of these apps on my phone, and I can have money in all of them. When I come here, not a single one of them is going to do me a darn bit of good. So clearly, they're missing the boat. They're maybe going after a different set of demographics, but I think they're going at it the wrong way. So when we talk about how do we bring Bitcoin into large retailers, yes, it is going to be a mobile solution, but it's not what you think. We're going to convert Bitcoin into a currency that the merchant, or a form of payment that the merchant can already accept. So if you're a business, what is the most favored form of tender that you can accept? What is the best form of payment that somebody could possibly give you? You'd think cash, but not necessarily, because you have to count cash, you have to secure it, it could get stolen, you have to transport it. The most favored form of currency for any merchant is their store credit. How would you like some store credit whenever you return something? You don't get cash back, you get store credit, right? It's just a credit in their system. So if you could convert Bitcoins into a store gift card, that would be great, right? Companies love store credit so much that they let other people resell their gift cards at face value, and they give those resellers a discount so that the consumer doesn't have to pay a premium. Because merchants know that if you have a $10 gift card for a store, you're probably going to spend 3 times that much when you actually go to use it. So there's a lot going on in the gift card space that makes it really exciting. We've developed a way where you can pay for gift cards with Bitcoins. We've partnered with this company called Gift. And I don't know, who here has actually used Gift to buy a mobile gift card? Not many people. Okay, you should try this. These guys are based out of San Francisco. They got funded from Google Ventures. They work with 100,000 retail locations. So major brands like The Gap, Lowe's, Fandango for movies. I don't even know the list. I mean, Amazon. You can buy a $2,000 Amazon gift card with Bitcoins, and you can buy it instantly on your phone. These guys just raised another $5 million in a Series A, so they're going to be growing even more. But this is how you're going to, you spend Bitcoins in retail. If you're shopping at The Gap and you've got $100 worth of clothes with you, you're going to take your phone and you're going to buy a $100 gift card, and it's going to be delivered right to your phone, and you just show that gift card on your phone at the register and pay. Right? So you can literally buy a gift card with Bitcoins while you're waiting in line. And this works extremely well. So it can be a long time before Target or Amazon or The Gap ever accept Bitcoins directly, just because look how complex their payment systems are. But if you can convert it into a gift card, we can do that today. So I have an announcement that we're going to make here. We have formed a Dutch entity, BitPay BV, and we're going to be setting up... So we're going to be setting up our European headquarters here in Amsterdam. So we've already set up, obviously, the entity. We've got accountants. We have a bank account. Well, we have multiple bank accounts, but we're ready to go. We're ready to offer the same level of service in the US that we do here. So we're looking to hire 2 people right away. Number 1, I need a director of marketing, because the payment landscape, the competition here is different than it is in the US. And I'm talking about some things like Ideal and your online banking, right? In the US, we compete against credit cards, which is just such an easy sale. In Europe, your banks and even your online banking is far more advanced than us. So we need to better understand, where does Bitcoin fit? What are the underserved markets, and what can we go after? And we're looking for software engineers, right? Our platform is written in Node and MongoDB. So if anybody has experience in that, come talk to me. We're looking to hire 2 people as soon as possible, based here in Amsterdam. With the scope of starting to build out a team to build our business here in Europe. We have some events coming up in Atlanta. Of course, we have the cryptocurrency conference. Immediately after that, we're going to Vegas for Money 2020, which is a Google-sponsored event. PayPal, Discover, all those guys are going to be there, so we'll be able to poke fun at them. My partner Steve is going up to MIT to speak at MTech, which is a big event the following day. I'm going to Moscow to speak at a mobile and digital finance summit. I'm just going to talk in general about Bitcoin. So anybody that is a Bitcoiner in Moscow, I'm going to be there in about 3 weeks. So email me. I'd like to meet up with some Bitcoiners while I'm there. Atlanta, this is a VC event. This is the biggest VC event in the Southeast. It's called Venture Atlanta. So we're going to be presenting there. Istanbul, I'm coming back in November to speak at an event called Webit. It's a Webit Congress. Apparently it's a big deal in Istanbul, but again, they want me to speak about Bitcoin, really talking about emerging markets there. And then we are going to go down to Buenos Aires. There's a Latin American Bitcoin conference, and I'm pretty excited about this one. This has kind of come together at the last minute, but it's really snowballed. You know, my opinion just watching the news is that Buenos Aires in Argentina is going to be ground zero for Bitcoin in Latin America. Because the people there are just losing faith with their traditional banking system. You know, it's kind of like a Cyprus in slow motion. But they're looking to diversify as much as they can. So what do they do now? Well, they go to Uruguay. Well, that's not going to work for much longer. You have to continue to conduct business in Argentina, and I think Bitcoin is going to be big there. So we're looking to expand and actually open an office and have a sales presence there. A little bit more complicated, but we're working on it. BitGive Foundation. This is actually something that we announced at the Inside Bitcoins event in New York. This is a charitable giving organization for the Bitcoin community. And the idea is to raise an endowment fund from some investors or some Bitcoin early adopters, set aside some Bitcoins today. Hopefully in a few years they're going to be worth a lot of money. And you're going to be able to make some very substantial donations on behalf of the Bitcoin community to areas like medical research, and the environment. So those are the two areas that it's working on. The website is bitgivefoundation.org. So if you'd like to go there and make a donation, you can make it anonymously or give your name. But clearly, we want to try to generate some positive news stories and positive press around Bitcoin, and that's one of the things that this organization can do. Bitcoin Magazine is here, as you've seen. By all means, continue to support this. It's a great opportunity. We're gonna stay committed to producing a print publication for Bitcoin because I think it's very important. Whenever you go talk to a business, if you can give them a printed publication, suddenly this virtual currency in the sky becomes something very physical and very real, and they can hold it. Just like the physical Bitcoins, right? As soon as you give it to somebody, they hold it in their hand. They're like, okay, I get it. This is money. This works. We want to work on a way where we can get more distribution of the magazine. So if you're in a position where you could maybe take 50 or 75 of these magazines a month in your area, and you think you can actually sell them, come talk to myself or Mihai, because we'd like to kind of get you on a distribution chain directly from the printer. We're doing with some people right now. We'd be happy to expand it if you're interested. If you really want to promote Bitcoin in your area, this is a good way to do it. We can get you, a box of magazines from the printer every month for that. So what are some of the bottlenecks and challenges that we see? Well, the exchange liquidity is always something that everybody complains about. It is getting better. More exchanges are popping up, so this is not as much of a challenge as it used to be. We're confident in the exchanges that we have now. The guys from Bitstamp are doing a fantastic job. It just goes to show you, if you build a great product and offer great service, you will rise to be number one. One of the things that I would really like to see built is an options market for Bitcoin. A place where we can trade puts, calls, and spreads. This is really important. This can help reduce the volatility of Bitcoin by allowing people to hedge their positions instead of always selling. It will also allow people to sell options that are out of the money to help absorb some of the large swings. Weekly and monthly is probably fine. You don't need to do it daily or hourly. I think that's too tight of a time difference. Do it like the traditional markets do. If you've ever traded on a platform called Thinkorswim, my background is as an options trader. I love this platform. It's probably hands down the best options trading platform in the world. It's run by some guys out of Chicago. They sold it to TD Ameritrade for like $600 million. But if you're interested in opening up an options market, I know these guys, and they want to learn more about Bitcoin. They want to learn how it works. So I'd be happy to make some introductions and try to get that working. Because I think this would be really good. This will allow people to get some exposure to the market, to hedge their positions, and ultimately make the markets more stable and more liquid. So this is my final slide. Our goal here, is to continue the trend. We went from 1,000 to 10,000. By this time next year, whatever conference is around the same time, I hope to be standing on stage saying we have 100,000 merchants. So how are we going to get there? Well, we're going to continue to do what we're doing right now. We're going to focus on e-commerce because that's where the majority of the successes have been. It's a software-only solution that we can implement. It's just a matter of time and resources to get more. Again, we want to focus on companies in North America or Europe that are trying to reach customers in emerging markets, right? That's a slam dunk for us that other payment systems can't compete with. Again, the travel and tourism vertical, I think, for in-person payments is going to be the big one. And I'd like to see more services go along that. Another one that I didn't put on here is micropayments. So we're working with a new service called BitMonet, and they are designed for publishers. And so you can put up a little paywall on any type of online content publishing, and people can pay you, a nickel or a dime to read an article, or they can pay 20 cents or 20 euro cents for an hour pass or a day pass, right? You can time meter it. So it's called BitMonet, M-O-N-E-T. And it works really well. They actually offer it as an open source free service that anybody can innovate and make even better. And it works if you have a BitPay account. So micropayments I think are good. I don't think it's a killer app right now, but I think it will be growing here in next year. We're going to continue to focus our resources mostly on engineering, right? 10 of our 15 people are software engineers. I would expect the ratio to stay that way. We're focusing on scalability. How do we expand our system? How do we do more transactions per day, per hour, per month? Redundancy, that's a big thing that we're focusing on right now. We need to have 3 of everything. Because the more that we get, we can't go. We need more hosting providers. We need more servers. We need everything to be in sync. That's a big infrastructure step. Going from 1 to 3, is a massive undertaking. Going from 3 and beyond is not as challenging. So that's what we're working on now is redundancy. And then we are going to work on more partner tools, right? Because we have a lot of gurus and partners out there that are promoting Bitcoin and signing up merchants for us. We'd like to give them some better tools to be more effective. And I'm hoping by the turn of the year, by the beginning of 2014, we'll be able to have that. So that's all I have, guys. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to ask them. Yes.